Hello, today we're going to do something very simple. I hope you guys like it. I've been painting for quite some time, but unfortunately I haven't been able to as I should. And sometimes I like to practice and do like different things. This is my practice paper. It is actually 98-pound Canson paper, and this is mixed media, and I've been using it for some of my interesting sketches. One of the things that I like to do is to practice stuff like the eyes, mouth, stuff like that. I like to wet the paper like so, and I believe that you can do this too. And the good thing is that you can practice with your own eye or just have fun. I got interested in anatomy about 10 years ago. Just wanted to paint people, and specifically for portraits, And so I started practicing doing eyes and mouth and noses and stuff like that. And of course I used to practice with pencil, not with a brush. But once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to actually do it with a brush. And what I'm doing now is called, I believe it's scumbling. So I'm kind of just wiping off the paint off, and I'm just gonna semi-wet my brush. I'm gonna come here and look for a bluish tone. I'm just gonna try it on my palette here. And so this is going to be your shadow inside your eye. And those little veins that you can see, that's part of your shadow. Remember, the eye is a muscle. So that's basically what you see around the eye. All those veins and cartilage plus the muscle. So that's what we're doing. And of course, I don't know, let's just create a green eye. And so for that, I'm going to start off with a light yellow. And if you notice, I'm basically just doing like, I don't know if I can show it to the camera, but that outer corner of the eye, this is where the nose should be, right? The nose should be right here. So it's the inside of that outer corner, and it doesn't have a lid. It's just basically the bulb of the eye, the iris, or and the big old bowl that we have inside. So it's basically just constructing the eye for a little bit. It seems complicated, but really doesn't. It's not. It's very, very easy. So I'm just gonna come here and grab a darker brown, and I'm using white watercolors. I'm just mixing in some of my browns, and then we're just gonna start doing the outer corner of the eye. So right where you blink, right? Perhaps if I close I can zoom in, unfortunately. So the outer corner, and I'm gonna do the same thing here. Okay. So you see how the lid is basically transforming, and I'm doing all this wet into wet, right? Wet into wet. I'm just gonna do the bottom part, right? I'm just basically closing down, and I'm doing that area right where you close down before the eyebrow. So the eyebrow should be in this area. This is where the nose is, and of course you're gonna follow along shadow. Okay, so I'm just gonna throw in some bluish shadow over here and some bluish shadow on here, right? And if I see something that I can pick up with my brush, I'll do it. Then just gonna pick that up because I want it a little bit more whiter. And then I'm just gonna use some pinkish. You know, we have some pink right on the inner corner, right, of the eye. So that's what I'm going to use. And this seems a little too dark for me. But remember, this paper is wet, so it will be lighter. I'm just gonna spread that pink all over and lower it down to the pupil over here and like that. Perhaps pick up just a bit from here. And of course, I think that any watercolorist will tell you, like, the biggest thing with us is you have to wait until it dries. You have to wait until it dries. If you don't wait, you can make a big mess. And so basically now I'm adding the upper lid, right? Okay. And perhaps I want to close down a little bit. Remember that this color that you see here is gonna get lighter because the paper is wet. You also have to take in consideration the type of paper that you're using. Now I'm using a 90 pound. It's very light, and so it doesn't do well with scrumbling, and it doesn't do well with a lot of washes. So you have to be careful. But for practice and for studying, it's perfect. Although I've seen some artists using this type of paper doing beautiful, beautiful pictures, landscapes, etc., etc. So I think it's more about technique and, you know, the want of doing something, which is not always easy, you know. So I'm just gonna pick up just a little bit because he went on the part where I'm going to add a little bit more dark. And instead of actually just adding black to the middle part, which is like the iris, like the big black dot that you have right in the middle of your eye, I went in and went for my darkest green. This could be a sap green. So my darkest green, and I'm gonna lay it right there. Okay? And you notice that I'm like just dotting the brush. And I'm sorry I can't really like zoom in into this. But I hope that with my explanation, you get to do your own eye. Okay? And then of course, you know, we have on the outer corner of the eye, we have that little line that is a little darker. So I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna go to the green right next to it. Just gonna wet it, revive it a little bit. And then I'm just gonna add that green there. The good thing about eyes is that you can play and you can add many, many colors. Now, once I lay down the corner of the eye, I'm just gonna do, you know, those squiggly lines that you have inside, which I really don't know the scientific name for things, but you understand. So I'm just basically just lifting up that. And of course, right on the upper lid of any eye, you'll have that little piece of, I call it meat, but that little piece of meat. So if you want to do a realistic eye, you want to make sure that you actually do that. And that's what's actually causing the shadow. I come back, go back to my blue, and add my shadow right underneath it. And perhaps get even where the iris is. Go back to my pinkish color. It's not that pink, it's kind of like darker. but this will do for now. Just gonna add a little bit of reddish tone on the bottom lip, and you can tell this person is quite awake, right? Lower it just a tad bit. So I'm basically scumbling and picking up and doing this and doing that. I'm gonna add a little bit more shadow, and by that I'm adding a bunch of blues, everything that I can think of that will give me a really nice mud color. I'm just gonna add, and I'm just going to basically just add that shadow there, and I'm going to lift up this area, add some shadow there, and of course right on the upper lid add some shadow. So I'm also playing with the shadow. Okay, whatever I don't like I pick up, etc, etc. You notice that I'm making an eye, but at the same time I'm kind of just following the rule of anatomy, because right here that's where the tip of the nose is, so I don't want to miss it. So I know that has a shadow there, and so far so on. I'm gonna come back and perhaps let's just start doing an eyebrow. Just gonna add these bottom brownish colors, and with watercolors some people go a little like, oh my god, hair is so difficult and I don't know how to do this, but as you can tell, this is my eyeshadow, my eyebrow. Okay, I'm just throwing it in, and if it's too dark then I'll just pick up a little bit. I'm just gonna add a little bit more water, pick up with the brush if I have to, and I have somewhat eyebrow. Then I'm gonna come here, and with this really dark, this is number 194, there you go, from Koi Watercolors. I'm going to start doing the tip of the eyebrow on the bottom part, and I'm just gonna lower it as I go. So as you can tell, I haven't done one speck of hair, and the reason is because in everything, painting, watercolor, etc., you go with the shadow, form, etc. So that's what we're doing here, and of course just gonna shoot a little bit, and this shadow is going to help me develop the eye. I'm gonna go in and start playing with the eye a little bit. If I feel like, oh, you know what, I can help this eye by adding a little bit more white, then you know it's still pretty wet, then you know I can pick up with my brush, which for some people it's kind of difficult, and if it's difficult for you, go ahead and do it with your napkin. However, I have a thing for the napkin thing, like the claw thing, because it has this little like, I don't know, like texture that I feel like it will damage your painting. But if you don't know how to pick up with your brush, then go ahead and pick it up with your napkins. After all, it's your painting, and I feel like whatever makes you happy. So I'm just gonna start doing basically just the hair, right? Just make it look like there's hair in here. And this one is hairy. She has, or he has, a lot of hair. And you know, when I'm doing a eye of any kind, I'm really not thinking about the sex of the person. I'm just practicing. So whatever comes, that's the flow of things. I'm just practicing an eye, and it really doesn't matter if it is, for now, whatever comes is okay, you know? It's like a baby, all right? And so I started adding a little bit more to the lid. I'm gonna go down and add that. I'm actually going back to 194. I'm just gonna, okay, Just add a little bit of that squiggly lines that we have here. This person has just a bit of wrinkles. Perhaps he is 48 or so, or just human, right? So with these principles, you can go on and finish a whole painting because you kind of sort of have an idea of doing a human being. I'm going back to this 197, I think it is. I can hardly see it. 107. And so I'm going back with that green. I'm going to go right on the center, and I'm just gonna add green where the spaces that I can think of that will look interesting. Because if you really look at your eye, you're gonna see those squiggly things that I'm talking about, because that's how your eyes expand. You also have to note that, oops, hopefully this doesn't fall on the floor, but you also have to note when your the eye is like a camera, right? So the way it opens is, I don't know if I'm correct, but it's like that, you know, that's how it opens. So if this was like, this is the eye and it's a camera, this is the way it opens. So it expands and opens like that, right? So you have like that little kind of like, so you want to do the swirls in. You want to understand how the eye works, and you want to really like dig in when it comes to, even though it's perhaps something simple, but you want to be able to understand how that muscle actually works, and that will allow you to do your subject in a better, much better. So I'm just adding some blues and just making it more interesting. Now, mind you, this is a 92 pound paper. So you imagine if you were to have like really, really nice paper. But since we're just sketching, it's okay. Now I'm going back here, and again, I'm just going to, okay, add just a little bit of that dark black, because I really like black. You really don't have to. So I'm just gonna, right on the tip, and then I'm going to add a little bit on the bottom part. And I'm not going to touch that eye for a little bit because it's pretty wet. So whenever I feel like it can be helped, I'm just gonna go around. Okay. Now I seen artists like they use color pencils, and they finish it up with color pencils. But you can do a bunch of things at the moment. The main thing is, of course, is letting this dry. And you see how is developing and looking straight at you, and I didn't mean it to look that creepy, but I do want you guys to understand how this kind of functions and how easy it is. I think that watercolor is a very underrated medium, and a lot of people kind of just feel iffy when it comes to the medium, but in reality it's actually a very beautiful medium, and it's versatile. I also think that if you learn how to do simple things in watercolor, because it's, in a way, the reality of it is that it's not an easy medium. It's kind of difficult to maneuver because obviously it's water. But if you get the hang of it and you get a little bit more practice with it, I believe that it allows you to tackle other mediums with, it will be a little bit more easier for you. Maybe I'm wrong, but I see, I don't know. I just feel like it's easier because watercolor to me is like the most difficult medium. So if you're able to tackle it, then you understand? You're able to tackle the other mediums with ease. So I just went in and going back and forth with my kind of just like a dotting, just dropping off eyeshadow there. I mean, yeah, eyeshadow, or better say shadow in the eye. and I'm just going to now just develop some hair, and only in the front because of course, you know, that's how a real human. Just gonna use 296, I think it is, will do, and just gonna disperse. So only on the front and just a few hairs. If I need a little bit more reinforcement, then I go ahead and do, but you don't want to add too much detail into the painting. So all right, I tend to use gouache for this exercise. We're not going to, we're just going to leave it plain watercolors because that's what I really want to show you guys, how easy and quick it is. I think like the best thing here is to let it dry, and I think that I feel like that's the most difficult thing that people do not like, because watercolor tend to dry slower. But if you let it dry, I promise you that you can achieve even a better painting. So even like this, I mean, it looks like a perfect eye, or not a perfect eye, but it looks like an eye. But if you wanted to do a little bit more detail, you let it dry and add a little bit of more perhaps eyelashes, even though it looks like a guy to me. So I'm just gonna disperse some around, not go crazy doing details, okay? And I just sweep the bottom part of that detail so it doesn't look as obvious. I'm gonna go to the bottom part and I'm just gonna do the same thing. And if you notice that I changed my brush, I'm using a tinier brush, and I'm using also a very precise stroke. So here it is, our eye about to be done. And of course, like I said, I like to use gouache, but you can definitely, I'm just gonna use some pink, just a bit more on that side. Okay. All right. And if you feel like, oh, you know what, I want to do a little bit more of perhaps a reflection, or perhaps like so it looks a little bit more real, I take a little bit of a stiffer brush. This is from Liquitex, and it came in one of those packages, so I'm just gonna go and wet it a bit. And let me see, right here, let me see, yes, right here, I'm just gonna, okay, do what we called a, okay, so it looks like it's actually looking, just scrumble a little bit, and I'll do another one on the bottom, okay, and I'll do a little one over here, and that will actually give our eye a little bit more life. Notice that I'm cleaning up just a bit on the bottom part, and since I already did that detail, let me just right here with the just make sure that I do a really nice reflection. It doesn't look weird. And since I went just a bit here, I'm just gonna, okay. We're gonna add just a tiny bit of brown. Just gonna allow me to close in this eye. I'll do the same thing here. Okay. And perhaps a little bit more here. This brush had a lot of water in it, so sometimes it happens that you have to watch, of course, but that's fine. It's not killing me. I'm going to add a bit more of that brown over here, just to make sure that I close in that lid area. And you know, I'm just gonna leave it like that, because the more you add details to it, the more or the more things that you add, then the more realistic. But at the same time, you don't want to, I don't know, this is not a matter of it looks realistic or not. I think this is more about knowing how to practice and do something that it's actually very simple, but at the same time, you know, just doing the wrinkles. I don't know. Today we have perhaps an older gentleman. All right. Thank you so much. I hope that you enjoy. I hope that you learned something. Of course, I feel like each artist has different ways of doing things. I just feel, like I said, that watercolor is extremely underrated and is a really great medium to practice. And again, I don't leave my descriptions of the things that I use, but just in case, if you were interested, I feel like koi watercolors and Canson paper really go well together. Perhaps it's me. I actually, like I said, I use gouache sometimes. This one is from Holbein, the gouache that I'm using. And this is koi watercolors, and this is the Pocket Feel sketchbook. Okay, so these are the ones that I'm using. And this one came with a little like a water bottle thing. So it's basically this is basically just to go out. And this is the paper that I'm actually using, the mixed media from Canson. And you can tell that I added a lot of water, and it seems to hold on to them pretty much. Of course, I want to thank you again for watching. Hopefully this was instructive, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Bye. Oh, if you don't mind and you like what you see and you like what you learn, follow me, subscribe. I really truly appreciate it. I want to come and do more videos, small videos, which are easier, I feel, and a little less for me, a little less, I don't know, I don't want to say stressful, because they're really not stressful, but it will be easier for me since I'm so busy with my daily life and my 9-to-5 job. So I will really truly appreciate it if you can leave me a comment and let me know if this is the type of video that is helpful to you. And you know, this is, I feel like I love to share the little bit of knowledge that I do have. And if years save me from, I feel like when it comes to painting and art, you can never be satisfied, or you can say, oh, I got to a point where I'm really like satisfied, because I feel like every single day, every single year, I learn something new. And so it's like a journey process where you're learning constantly, and doesn't matter if you're 15 years doing this, or 20 years doing this, or whatever. I feel like you always have room for improvement and room for growing and room to do better, of course. So anyways, hope you guys like it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.